welcome to the event. Shout out to Heineken and the sponsors. Shout out to the whole staff of Underground Arts. We're here with the remix and WHYY, so thank you so much for plugging that in for me as well. So really, really excited. And also shout out to my man Ty. Ty, where you at, man? Hold on. There you go. See that guy right there? Yeah, thank you for everyone who worked to organize and to make this happen. We're really excited about tonight's event. We're going to get started in a few minutes.
What's up, y'all?
First, let me just say it's an honor for me to sit here on the stage with you and have the opportunity to talk to you, brother. All of your work and your effort in hip-hop culture is incredible, obviously, but it's an honor to be here and be able to build with you a little bit.
Thanks.
I want to kind of start at the beginning. I want to take the crowd back a little bit to 1987. Can you give us a snapshot of what was going on in Big Daddy Kane's world in 1987?
Well, in '87, that's when I had first dropped a single. I done a song with Biz called Just Rhyming with Biz, and you know, my introduction to the world. Unfortunately, you know, Biz was already a famous rapper, so it was the type of thing where everybody thought it was his song. You know, especially since he starts it off. So I had a song that was playing on the radio, but not really getting any shows. So I kept going back to the label, begging and pleading, let me put out something by myself. Finally, Tyrone Williams, the guy that ran Coachella Records, he gave the green light, and I went to the studio and recorded Raw. And you know, from that point on, the rest was history.
Yeah, I mean, Raw hit a certain chord amongst people who have been listening to hip hop up to that point. Anybody remember the single Raw? I think it really sort of raised the bar a little bit in terms of like MC skills. Did you have a sense that you were taking it to the next level? Like, did you have a sense of how people were going to respond to Raw when it came out?
Well, you know, like I was saying with Just Rhyming with Biz, here I am putting up my first single, and I'm not really getting the recognition. Everyone is assuming that it's Biz's song. So you know, I had in my mind that, okay, whenever I go back in the studio, I got to really, really do something so people know who I am and what I do. So, you know, I was definitely trying to showcase my skills, you know, to the highest level, and at the same time, you know, do something that I guess, you know, people weren't really accustomed to, you know, with the real fast delivery. Yeah, you know. Yeah.
The pace of it, and also just the use of language and the complexity of it. It was really a distinct style in that early point. So from there, you would say your career just kind of took off from there. Can you talk to the audience a little bit about, like, you know, you always embraced your blackness on record in multiple ways. Is that like how you came up? Was that an area you saw that needed to be done within hip hop? But like, and I mean that in terms of like your physical blackness, but also like the knowledge about being black and consciousness. Were you know, coming up, were you raised to think that way, or did you learn that way? What influenced you to make that kind of impact on hip hop?
Well, just being a fan of music and seeing what was going on with a lot of other artists who did similar things. You know, like, you know, your Marvin Gaye, Roberta Flack, Donny Hathaway, you know. I just felt like, you know, Curtis Mayfield, you know. So, I mean, I thought that, you know, this is something that, you know, I should do in hip hop, you know.
How do you think people responded to you early on that piece? Like, early on, how were people responding to the content of the music?
Oh, I mean, you know, people love, you know, what I was doing, you know, because, you know, they got to hear great lyrics. They, you know, got to have songs that they could dance to and leave with a positive message, you know.
And I want to ask you some questions about how you think about hip-hop in the contemporary moment as well, but can you break down your name a little bit? And really, what I really want you to talk about, bro, is the impact of like the 5% Nation on hip-hop, right? Like the acronym for your name, King, Asiatic, Nobody's Equal. You know, if I grew up in Newark, New Jersey. If you grew up like in Northeast America, as a black man, you saw the 5%ers all around, and some of that sort of was represented in your music. Can you talk about that influence?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I still follow Islam, and I mean, it's like, basically trying to educate the youth, trying to bestow knowledge onto others, and I mean, I think that's something that's very, very important, especially when you're dealing with the younger generation. So, at that time, with me, and back then, being the youth, I had a platform to do it. And I thought that it was something that was very important. And I tried to do it, but I tried to do it in a way where, I forgot how the old commercial used to go about learning is fun. But I tried to do it reading is fundamental. There you go. I try to do it in a way where it's like, you're enjoying yourself, but as you're listening, you're learning something, and you're appreciating and respecting yourself even more,
When you listen to hip hop today, are you seeing artists who are carrying on in that specific tradition, like thinking about how to make education and learning through hip hop a fundamental part of the experience of listening to the music? There's a few artists, but I mean, only sad part is like with a lot of the younger artists that try to drop knowledge, they don't really get the mainstream exposure. If they get too in depth, then they'll be categorized as a conscious rapper and placed underground, and they don't really get the radio play that other artists get. So, the ones that are out there as new artists, you don't really see them. Do you think that that's a challenge or a problem, or you think that's just the nature of the business at this point?
It's the nature of the business. It's the nature of the business. Thanks to the power of a Dr. Dre and a Jay-Z, you do get to see Kendrick Lamar and J. Cole and hear powerful messages from them, because the people, the umbrella they're under, artists that's from my era, or the era right afterwards, So I mean, they understand and respect their message, and they want it to be heard by the masses. But I think that with a lot of other artists that want to try to do what a Kendrick or a J. Cole does, they are easily, shifted up under the rug as conscious rappers, and that doesn't fit radio format, or the thought of not getting radio play scares the hell out of them, and it makes them just do what everybody else is doing.
Have you been following presidential politics?
Yeah.
So we kind of came up, we saw Jesse Jackson, obviously we grew up through the whole Obama piece. What's your take on where we are in terms of like political presidential stuff? I'm not asking you to endorse a candidate, but what's your sense of the kind of dialogue and the conversations we're having around like American politics in the 21st century?
I think that right now the world is real crazy and real scary.
What do you mean? Be specific.
Because I'm getting it. With what's going on in politics now, a lot of things that once had an undertone are real blatant right now, and real disrespectful, it's just crazy. And to me, I feel like when you look at someone like Donald Trump, I don't really look at him and say, wow.
You're not shocked?
I'm shocked. Wow. I'm offended. I don't look at Donald Trump and say that. That doesn't bother me, because, he's a billionaire. So you expect that type of arrogance from somebody with that amount of money, They feel like they can do whatever the hell they want to do. I expect that. What scares me is his supporters. You know, that scares me. You know, that this is something that you want to defend and co-sign. You know.
So you're not looking forward to a Trump presidency?
No, not at all.
I mean, when you and again, hip hop has become, even though the music may not, hip hop as a sort of culture has become more political over time because we grow up and we're engaged in politics. Is there a role that you want to play as an artist in terms of, you know, influencing that process? Like, do you want your fans to know that you think Trump represents something or a direction that this nation shouldn't be going in? I mean, how do you think your music and your artistry impacts or affects?
Well, I mean, if you look on my Instagram, you see.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I speak on it whenever I feel, you know, the need to, you know, and you know, I mean, yeah, I mean, I think it's something that's, you know, crazy. You know, I mean, I really think that this is something that's real crazy because this is not like George W. Bush or Ronald Reagan presidency where you just don't like this candidate's policies. You know, this is something that's carrying a real heavy racial tone. You know, I mean, it's way bigger than, you know, I'm a Democrat, he's a Republican. That, you know, it's way bigger than that. You know, this is something that carries a heavy racial tone. You know,
you've been following the Black Lives Matter movement.
Yeah.
What do you think about the young people who have been organized now in the street around police murders of black folks? It's something that in the music and in hip hop has been talked about for a long time, but now it's this national movement. What do you think about Black Lives Matter?
You know, it's beautiful to see, you know, people standing up for what they believe in. It's beautiful to see people fighting for a cause. I think what I really respect the most about it is the dedication, because normal under these situations when we see this is something going on for about 2 weeks and then it's a wrap. You know, so I truly respect the dedication. It's just, you know, it's the type of thing where you gotta pinpoint the blame, and that's where your attack should be focused at. You know, because I believe that there are a lot of bad police, but I also believe that there are a whole lot of good police as well. You know, there were cops, you know, that were murdered in Dallas, and we don't know whether they were good or bad cops. They could have been, you know, excellent cops that did a great job. You know, but I mean, things like this can occur because of the anger and frustration that has built up for so long. And I mean, I think that the way of really fixing this is like, it's a time where it needs to be like, someone need to, you know, really make it, like really push for where police are being policed. You know,
like
the police,
like
the police
oversight, or people paying attention to what the police are doing.
Yeah, someone, you know, I mean, you know, like what internal affairs do when they see something's funky in house. You know, someone need to like really be looking at these situations that same way, because I mean, if 2 or 3 cops were incarcerated for this unnecessary violence, a lot of them would simmer down. You know, a lot of them would simmer down.
But as long as they get off with no...
Yeah, I mean, you know that, you know, look, I'm just going to get suspended, you know, for 2 or 3 weeks and I'll be back at it. Right. It ain't nothing.
Right. Yeah. So a lot of folks are familiar with your music and your artistry, but you've done a lot more with your career over time. Can you talk a little bit about some of your your acting, some of that piece of your career, and just some of the more entrepreneurial things that you've been developing over the short term?
Well, yeah, I've done a few movies. Back in the 90s, I was in a Western called Posse. Superhero movie called Media Man. Yeah. I let them put the blonde stuff in my hair. I still regret that to this day. And then like in the 2000s, there was a few independent films, Just Another Day, a horror film called Dead Heist, and a comedy called Love for Sale. And just this year, I had another theatrical release with Keanu Reeves called Exposed. And we have something coming out in October called Movie Madness. It's a thriller that features Lorenzo Lamas.
So you still acting. How did you get into the whole acting piece? Was that just from music videos? Was it something you always aspired to do? But how did you get into it?
Honestly, through Mario Van People.
For Posse.
Yeah. Like basically, he had a movie he was working on called Gunman, and he thought it would be good to have some rappers in the movie just performing. So he had me and Eric B. and Rakim in the movie just doing performances. And one of the days after shooting, he was like, "Yeah, I like your attitude," because like they tell you not to eat the water in Mexico. I mean not to drink the water in Mexico. Okay, well I'm doing everything, not to drink the water, but then my dumb ass ate an icy. So yeah, and I ended up getting real sick and vomited and stuff. But it was like whenever they said action, I put the game face on. He said he thought that was very professional, and he thought I looked good on camera. And he told me about a role that he wrote for another actor that was, looked real similar to me. That was a friend of his, and he wanted too much money. He wanted too many millions to be in the movie. So he asked me would I be willing to do the role, and I was like, yeah.
And you're going to continue to do?
Oh, absolutely.
So talk a little bit about the business stuff, because you've lent your name to different brands, you've developed some of your own, and this is some of the work that we're doing around hip hop, especially in the city of Philadelphia, is about trying to channel the entrepreneurial spirit to young people through hip hop culture. So can you talk a little bit about some of the businesses that you've been developing?
I had I had done a deal with stamps for Big Daddy Kane socks. With my photo on them, and I did a deal with British Walker. Yeah, I know none of y'all know what I'm talking about right now, but they were like popular.
Some people know what British Walkers are in this audience. We have an experienced audience out here.
Y'all know what British Walkers are?
Yes.
Okay. Excuse me. Well, yeah, like bringing, because as far as hip hop fashion goes, everybody always, attributed everything to, just the jeans and sneakers, not realizing that, we used to rock the pleated gabardine pants with the Playboy shoes, right, or the British Walkers,
right.
So bringing them back in style. So yeah, we did that, and I also have my own wine coming out called A Monterio.
Where's it made? What talks about it? Might be some wine connoisseurs in
what is it? I believe it's going through David Fulton.
Okay.
Yeah.
Red or white?
Red. It's a Cabernet Petit Syrah and Verdot blend.
Say the name again.
It's A Monterio. Yeah.
No disrespect to Heineken, but come on.
That's from my real name. My name is Antonio Monterio Hardy, so it's A Monterio.
And it's available in the fall.
Not yet. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, like fall. Yeah.
So I think we're gonna have time to take one or two from the audience. But I just want to ask one more question. There's always a lot of talk about longevity in hip hop, and obviously you've had a long career. How do you, if you were to talk to some young artists, or just for your audience members who are sort of interested, how have you sustained your career over the long haul?
I would think it's because I always gave people me. I didn't give you what the record company thought you should see. I didn't give you what the manager thought you should see. I gave you what came from the heart. And the heart always, speaks the truth. So when I'm speaking from the heart, what's going to happen is something I say, you're going to say, wow, I remember when this happened to me. Yeah, I remember the first time. I'm going through the same thing right now. And that's the type of stuff that I think sticks with you and say, yo, that's my dude. So now you're bigger than the songs. you know, your songs are not playing on radio, but people still support you. They know you're coming to town. They want to go see you, you know. And then also, you know, I also think having some sort of image, you know. I mean, when I say image, I don't mean, you know, you have to be a sex symbol or something like that. I mean, you have to have some sort of image, something that appeals to people. Like, for example, I mean, I watched in the early 80s with Run DMC. Now these are dudes where their thing was shell-toe Adidas with no laces. You had criminals on the street that's robbing people, snatching your chain, and trying to run with it with sneakers on with no laces. How the hell are you gonna do that? But you know, they took that chance because they love Run DMC, you know? Now, you, my brother, in the late 80s, you know, with 2 fat gold chains on, you could probably bag any girl in this room. You know, and you had cats that was doing it for that specific reason. But when Public Enemy came out talking about fight the power, I saw people take $5,000, $6,000 rope chains off to put a $10 leather medallion on to represent the struggle. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, like I said, it doesn't always have to be about sex symbol. It's just something that, you know, appeals to the people. Like, matter of fact, I think New Edition is probably the greatest example, because you could have a household that had 3 or 4 sisters living in them, and they would have a New Edition photo on the wall, but each one of them would have a single photo of the member that they like the best. You know, that's dope.
So do I have a minute or two? Do we have a little time left? Okay, we're good. Yeah. Yes, we can take a couple of questions from the audience. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, King. First of all, I love you. My husband knows this. My mother knows this. My whole family. So that's a known fact. Your lyrics have given me life, like, since I was 16. How do you keep the energy for great songs like Raw, Set It Off, when you perform them now? Stuff that you wrote when you were, you know, late teens or early 20s. How do you keep that energy going?
Because of people like you. I mean, you know, no, I mean, honestly, you know, honestly, when you, even to think that, you know, you've been doing this for almost 30 years, and there's, you know, people out there that still support you and, you know, love what you do, you want to give them your all, you know?
Yes, sir.
My name is Keith from up the block. I'm a comedian from Philly, lifelong fan since 6th grade. I wanted to know, on the Taste the Chocolate album, you did a track with the late great Rudy Ray Moore. I wanted to know, when you did that track, y'all were going back and forth battling, did you approach that track trying to defeat him or trying to entertain, and did you know the material that he would do before that track? Because to me, that's one of the greatest tributes to Rudy Ray Moore from a hip hop artist.
Thank you, man, and thank you again on his behalf, man. Well, I mean, you know, I had all the party albums, so I knew all those rhymes that he was saying. You know, I knew them all, and no, I wasn't trying to defeat him. I wanted him to be victorious because there was, you know, a lot of people from my era didn't know who he was. He beat Kane on the record. Now you know, you definitely gonna know who he is.
That's how I found him.
You see what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
What's up, Kane? Long time fan, respect to you. Is there any artist today that you'd like to collab with? Anybody out there that you might be interested in doing something with? Because a lot of young folks don't know who you are, right? I remember a few years ago, Nelly had a little beef with KRS, and you know, his fan base was a little stronger. That's because a lot of the young folks don't understand. Is there anybody out there today that you're thinking about collabing with at all?
Let me answer that in 2 parts. I would love to, I've always wanted to work with CeeLo Green. You know, I've always been a fan of his. And I'm going to do something with Logic. You know? But I mean, you know, as far as it goes with a younger generation, not knowing, you know, who I am. You know, there's a lot of artists that came out in the 50s and 40s that I don't know who they are. You know, that's just the way it goes as time goes by. I'm cool with that, you know. I mean, if anything, I wouldn't really want to connect with younger generation fan base. I'd rather connect with a younger generation of artists to show them how to do things the right way. You know, the artists, not the fan base. Because I mean, I got my fan base. I'm good, baby.
You know something good. Like my son traveled up to Brooklyn. That's my son Cameron. And he called me today. He said, "Pop, I didn't know Kane was a legend like that. He killed it in Brooklyn." We talked for like 25 minutes. I said, "I've been trying to take him there forever." That's where I was coming from. Yeah, respect it.
Yes, sir, in the back.
Peace, Kane. I think, you know, from a lyrical perspective, like I think that most of us who grew up in that era, like we know like where you stand as a lyricist. But I think that one of the things that has kind of been pushed under the rug is that your prowess as a producer. So can you talk a little bit about like some of the things that you've had your hand in production-wise, like even with a lot of your earlier stuff?
Well, I mean, you know, with a lot of that earlier stuff, you know, like Warm It Up and Roy, you know, a lot of joints, just rhyme with Biz and all this stuff. I mean, it's like, you know, it's really just a matter of finding the right breakbeat. You know, it's pretty similar to what, you know, Kool Herc, Africa Bambaataa, Grandmaster Flash, those dudes were already doing. You know, it's really just finding the right breakbeat, because it's not like I really dissected the beat, you know, back then. I mean, now I'm a lot better at that type of stuff. But I mean, when you look at the creativity that Dr.James, Timbaland, Easy Mo B, DJ Premier, you know, these cats, Just Blaze have put into production. Like, that to me was like just a whole different level, because they were taking the breakbeat and making it do something completely different than it ever did, you know. But I mean, I respect you, you know, acknowledging that, you know, because, yeah, you know, there was certain stuff, you know, you got to air with, I sound good on this. I sound good on this, you know. You know, I don't know, like, do you remember, like, block parties, like, with the mic line?
Now, well, growing up in Chicago, we didn't really have one, so
Okay, well, the thing in the hood, like, they got block parties, whatever, the DJ's out in the street or in the park inside the projects, you know, they're playing. And at some point in time, he gonna break away from the disco records and all of this stuff, and he gonna start just playing the breaks and just cutting them up. As soon as he start doing that, you know, cats that rhyme, they gonna fall in line wanting to get on and spit, you know. And I mean, you know, yeah, I was one of those dudes where, like, I could be next up. But if you playing a slow beat, like, you know, God Make Me Funky, or, you know, something like, you know, just that I don't really feel comfortable on, I might let dude behind me go ahead first, you know, until, you know, you speed the pace back up, you know, because, you know, I know what I sound good on, you know.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to thank you, first off, for everything you've given us. But how did you hook up with Lil Brother and Fontaine and Cats?
Tell them about your North Carolina roots.
Do that dude right there. My DJ, Skaz Digger. Yeah. Him and his DJ squad, they were working on a project called Welcome to Durham. And, you know, they thought it would be a good idea for me to do something with Little Brother and have Knife on to produce it. So that was, you know, their vision.
Yeah, that was a nice track.
Thank you, man.
We have time for a couple more. All the way in the back, standing up.
Peace, King. Grew up on you, man. New York, uptown, all that. What's your thoughts on New York hip hop and current radio hip hop right now?
I mean, you know, I love to, you know, see cats like you know, like, you know, your Joel Ortiz and You got your Joey Badass. You know, there's certain cats that's, you know, in their zone, trying to keep it in pocket, and you know, I think that's beautiful. You know, but I mean, you know, a lot of it's weird. You know, what I'm saying, you know, because it's like hip hop is universal. And I've always respected the fact that, you know, you can go to LA and it's a different vibe. You can go to the Midwest, different vibe. Go to the South, it's a different vibe. But, you know, it's kind of strange, you know, to be in the hood in Brooklyn, you know, and have a dude come up on you like, hey, yo, you the Kane dude? Hey, yo, kid, I'm the hottest nigga in these here streets, you feel me? For real, I got that heat, man. Yo, you need to hear me, done. Let me spit that fire for you real quick. Check your boy. Every time I'm at the mall, that's confusing.
Yes, sir. So last question over there.
What's going on, Kane? My name is Chuck Belafonte. First of all, thank you. Yeah, you heard the name. Thank you for inspiring me for being what I do, and the whole rap game that I'm in. Everything I do is because of you.
Oh, much respect, bro.
When Raw came out, it was 87, right?
Yes, sir.
I was 10 years old. Mom probably didn't want me listening to that joint, but I got the tape and I banged it. My question is, as a fan, we sit back, we hear you, we see you to this day, we like, wow, this is Kane, this is a legend. Do you ever have a moment when you sit back and be like, damn, I'm a legend?
Yeah, I mean, you know what I'm saying? No, I mean, I'm not sure legend is the word I probably use, but yeah, there are moments, you know, like, you know, I mean, like, you know, get phone calls from Bootsy Collins, or have Quincy Jones call Ella Fitzgerald and ask you to spit a verse for her. Wow. Because he's explaining how your fast flow is real similar to her scat. Wow. You know, I mean, yeah, it's a lot of moments where, you know, I've sat and said, wow, did that really just happen?
And one more question, Prince of Darkness, man, I can't find it nowhere. In the stores, title, I need that album, man.
Oh, you might want to check Amazon or something. I don't do that. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving it up for Big Daddy Kane.